Welcome back. As we said earlier, David Cunliffe has a plan to restrict trucks on motorways to the inside lanes. With me is Chris Carr, the Director of Transport Company Carr Haslam, and he's going to tell us why the plan won't work. Welcome, Chris.
How are you?
Good, good.
Yeah,
right, why? You know, I mean, in principle, all right, like places overseas, Oz, Europe, America, everything else, they restrict trucks to the inside lanes. There's a safety aspect to all of this also. But, you know, why isn't it going to work in New Zealand?
Well, there's a number of reasons really, and I struggled to understand where it came from. It sort of came out of the blue, but New Zealand's motorway system, and there's only about 50 or 60 kilometres in the whole of the country that have 3 lanes or more, and it's essentially an Auckland issue with maybe a little bit in Wellington. But we've got entrances and exits on the right hand side. So if for example you're coming from West Auckland and you're heading south, you just end up joined on the motorway in the right hand lane. So it just struck me as being a strange kind of issue, because it's not trucks that are in the outside lane that cause delays over Easter breaks and things like that. And if you look at the photos in and around all those breaks, you see there's trucks in there, sure, but the congestion and delays are caused by cars, and it isn't trucks. So I kind of don't understand where David Cunliffe is coming from. It just struck me as being a weird idea out of the blue from a guy who's coming out with some weird ideas at the moment.
All right, that is a problem, agreed, where your motorway on-ramp, if you like, from West Auckland onto the southbound motorway, you come in on the fast lane. Now, again, that's unusual, because you don't see that overseas at all. You just come onto the lane to join them, and you have a huge run in most countries too. So you're not sort of coming on and there's 150 metres and then all of a sudden you're thrust into traffic. You might be a quarter of a mile, you know, 400 metres.
Yeah, you generally find, and I looked as I was coming into the studio today, I looked, and of all the trucks that were on the motorway at the time, there was one in the fast lane, the outside lane. I mean, in New Zealand there aren't any fast lanes because you're limited to 100 k's anyway. Yeah. The biggest issue we've got in New Zealand is the standard of driving, and you get people who decide that they're going to be in the fast lane and they're going to do 100 k's and that's all, and that's it, and they're going to sit there, but they don't understand that they're not actually doing 100 k's. But I mean, from a safety point of view, we've already said to our guys a number of times over the years, don't drive in that outside lane. There's no point in being there. If you can avoid it, do. And you'll find that most trucks do. I just found it was a really strange kind of thing. I know they don't do it in other countries in the world, but that's because the roading system's designed to deal with those sorts of things, and we're not. It's such a small issue. You
mentioned the safety aspect, and of course that's important. As I said earlier on, you know, the safety experts all over the world say it's something you don't do. Now, you're going to get a rogue bloke every now and again, don't you? And he's in the fast lane, and he's a 30-odd tonne rig, and he's mixing with small hatchbacks.
Yep, and he shouldn't be there.
Yeah, exactly.
And he should be ticketed. If he's causing a problem, he should be ticketed, just like the police carry out enforcement for all other stuff. But anybody who's in the fast lane travelling slowly should be moved over, and that's one of the crazy parts of our laws, is that they aren't. So, by all means, as truckies, ticket us. If we're doing that, we deserve to be moved over. But so does everyone else.
Yeah, okay. David Crawford, David's the CEO of the Motor Industry Association. He was on a couple of weeks ago, we were chatting about it, and he pinpointed a problem, which is the Kiwi drivers are egocentric. So you're in that fast lane, and I'm doing 99 or 100, and I'm not moving. Now, I remember coming down the Bombay Hills a few years ago, it was dark, and I'm sitting on about 100 or something like that, you see, coming down. And a bloke's in front of me, probably doing 80, and I just flashed him. I'd probably just come back from Europe, which
you probably got a wave back, did you?
He slammed the brakes on.
Yeah.
So again, I went on the inside. Now that comes back to what you mentioned before, was your driving standard.
Yeah, our driving standards here are quite strange. Sometime going back into history, and I can't remember when, it was the 60s and 70s when motorways were starting to build, there was a court case where a guy was ticketed by the police for failing to keep left, and the magistrate or judge at the time ruled that as long as he was as far as practical to the left in the lane that he was in, he could stay there. Now, that created this strange kind of environment where people weren't moved over because the police suddenly had no weapons at their disposal to do it. So we've created years and years and years of believing that it's okay to sit in a lane when, if you go to Europe and there's nothing on the motorway, everyone's off to the side.
All right, Chris, trucks aside, your old days as chairman of Rally New Zealand, what were the highlights? You must have seen some fabulous stuff.
I think, Rally New Zealand's a unique organisation, and it's full from the top to the bottom. Everyone's a volunteer, and everyone has a passion for the sport, which is not uncommon in motorsport, and anyone outside of motorsport doesn't realise the passion that goes in all the people that contribute to it, because particularly in rallying, it's not just what you see in front of you. In a circuit race, you get what you get and what you see, but in rallying, the area that you cover is hundreds, thousands of square kilometres, with lots and lots of public roads, closed roads. You're dealing with farmers, you're dealing with politicians, you're dealing with all kinds of people, and that's, to me, that was just the most amazing thing, just seeing the passion that these people had, the desire that they had.
The old chairman no longer, mate, but you're still pretty passionate about it, aren't you?
Well, yeah. It's that kind of thing. It does that to you. I was involved in rallying for 30 years on the outside of it, not the competing side.
Did you jump in the car with anyone?
Only once, with Rob Wiley.
Which special stage?
It was at Mystery Creek.
Okay.
And we just, it was only a little puddle around Mystery Creek, but I had a zillion opportunities to get in the car.
I'm sure you did.
But it was always more important to put someone else in the car, because there's only a limited number of opportunities that you get in those kind of promotional circumstances. So it was always more important to take somebody like the local mayor or the politician or some kid who'd been deprived somewhere, and you put them in the car and give them a thrill of a lifetime.
There's that politician reference again, mate.
Yeah, well, it's really strong.
Thanks so much for coming in, Chris.
Pleasure indeed.
Well, that about wraps it up for this week. And if you want some more information, you can always check out my website, automotivenews.co.nz. The TV interviews you see here are posted on the website's YouTube channel.